Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. Just before I begin, I would like to confirm that we are indeed live so that I don't have to make a mistake that I once made. Okay, we are live, so I can close this down and we can begin. So hello everyone, welcome back to the video. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, but this is currently a live stream on Twitch. Today we are going to be building a book application using the New York Times API. So if you head over to developer.newyorktimes.com, so developer.nytimes.com, you should get a page similar to this. And on your top right, you should have a sign in button if you're not signed in. But as you can see, I'm already signed in, so I have my email. So we are going to be looking, let me just go over this. So we are going to be using the books API, this API specifically, in order to generate a list of I think the top 15 bestseller books, the bestseller hardcover books, which are available on Amazon, I think so. And that's just basically going to be our application. And then I think in a later video, I'm also going to cover the article search API, but this is a bit more extensive. And this is going to be a short stream, so I didn't want to cover this in this video. And I think this offers a bit more functionality, such as like searching for articles, sorry, by titles or something like politics or, and such and such. So if I look into the books API, we should get something like this. And primarily the API call that we'll be executing is this right here, because as you can see, it returns hardcover fiction.json as well as our API key, which I'm going to show you where we can get that in a moment. And that's basically it. And as you can see, it also offers a bit more functionality where you can search for books by the author name right here. So for the author, so this is Stephen King, and you can get all the bestseller books that are written by Stephen King. Okay, so as you can see, all the API calls really need an API key. So how do we really get that? Once you sign in and validate your email address, then you can come over here and just click here and go to apps. And this is the page that you saw me clicking away, because I wanted to show you what it really is. So when you go to this page, because this is going to be technically a new account for you, or maybe most likely, then you won't see any applications listed here. So what you have to do is go to new app right there, and then give the name of the application. So I can say here, because this is a test, and then I'm just going to say test app or application. And then because we're using the books API, I'm going to go into books API right here, right here, and then I'm going to say enable. And because this is basically the only API that we're going to be using, and you can see the description is that get New York Times bestsellers list and look up book reviews. So once I have this enabled, I can say create, and then once it is created, you can see that our API key is now listed here, and this is it. So I'm just going to copy this to show you that it actually works. So I'm going to copy this, and I don't want to reveal this, so I'm not going to click this because it will reveal a secret. And then once I do that, I'm going to go back into APIs and then into books API, and then I'm just going to grab this first call right there, and I'm going to go here, and then in the address bar, as you can see, because it says invalid API key, I'm going to go and replace this with our API key, and we should get this. So as you can see, the number of results that we get, oops, didn't mean to click that. So the number of results that we get per page are 15 from the New York Times, and they're all hardcover fiction, and we get so much information from this. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to be doing in this application. And just to be on the safe side, by the end of this video, I'm going to get a new API key, because I don't want, I don't want to get hacked, so to say. So I'm going to go back into my applications page right here, and then I'm going to delete this test because we don't need it. So I'm going to delete it. And then because this is the application name that I gave, I'm just going to copy this API key. I'm going to copy it, and then remember I'm already running my React server. You know what, I should probably start by saying that in the beginning of the video. Okay, so what I did was I created a new React app using npx create React app, and then I called it books app, as you can see, and all I have basically are the default files that come with create React app. So that's really all for this. And then what I'm going to do is where was I was um, where was it in my APIs. First of all, I need to grab the link, so I'm just going to grab all of this. I'm going to go to this HTTPS, and then I'm just going to leave it hanging for a moment, and then I'm going to go into my React application. And inside my React application, because it's generally not a good idea to commit your API keys to GitHub, so what I'm going to do is, in the root of my application, once this is finished canvassing, is that I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it .env. So I'm going to create a .env file like that. And then inside this .env, I'm going to place a variable which will link to my API key. And this is my API key, as you can see. So just cut that out. And this variable, I'm going to call it React, so capital React underscore app underscore books underscore API underscore key. And then this will equal to my API key. Oops, what I do? This should be here. Okay. So this will be my .env file. And the reason for this .env file is because Node.js allows us to access the variable inside this file in our application without compromising our API key. And it allows us to do that using process.env. And I'm going to show you how we can substitute this to our actual in our actual application. Okay, so the next that I'm going to do before I forget really is I'm going to go inside here, and I'm going to grab this link because we are going to use it to fetch our data. And I'm going to install a few dependencies. So let me open up my terminal, and I'm going to install a few dependencies. I'm going to install React icons. So npm install React icons dash save. And then I'm going to install Axios as well, which we're going to use to fetch our data. And then what else? I think it's those two. I think those are the primary ones that we need, so I'm just going to install them. And then as this runs, I'm going to perform some cleanup. So I'm going to remove everything inside here. I'm going to return a div. Oops. I'm going to return a div with an h1 that says books up. And then I'm going to remove this import above, and then I'm going to close this, and I'm going to delete app.css. And then it's taking a while to run. It does this sometimes. See, it's saying not responding. It does this sometimes, so you just have to wait. Okay, so once I'm also going to delete app.test.js, and I'm going to delete logo, and then report web, and then setup tests. And then in my public folder, I'm going to delete this logo. Oops, I'm going to delete this logo, the manifest, and probably the robots.txt, but that's not really necessary. Okay, let me just delete it. And then in my index.html, I'm going to perform some cleanup where I don't like these comments. I'm just going to remove these comments. And we have deleted the manifest.json, so I'm going to delete this as well. And then delete this final comment. And then change this title to books list up using New York Times API. And then just copy this and replace this description right there like that. And this can remain black. I don't really mind this black on the New York Times API. Okay, so once I save that, then we should be almost good to go. Our title has changed right there. And before I forget, what am I forgetting? I copied the link somewhere. Let me just confirm. I copied this link. I need this link, so copy this link. And then I'm going to create a component inside my source folder and in a new file, and I'm going to call it capital B, so books, capital B, books.js, and then inside the books.js, I'm going to say RAFCE, which will generate a React arrow function component and export it as default, just like this. And once I do that, I'm just going to copy this URL, const URL. You don't need to do this because this is basically so that I don't have to keep on copying from there in case I have to copy another thing. So inside this, I need to set up my state values first of all, because we need to populate our state values, and then we need to fetch our data using Axios. So we also need the use effect hook, which I need to import. So I'm going to say import use state for our state values, and then I'm going to import use effect for our effects, which is basically to fetch our data. And then once we do that, I'm going to right away set up my state values, where I'm going to say const, and what do we call this, books, and set books, and this will be use state by default, and by default, as you can tell, it's going to be an empty array, because basically we are going to populate this array once we fetch our data from Axios. And I've just remembered that I need to import Axios, so I'm going to say import Axios from Axios, like that. And then once we do this, we actually need to now fetch our data. Let me just confirm that this has finished running. Right, it has finished running, and if I check in my package JSON, then I should be able to see Axios right there and React icons right there. Okay, so let's work on how we fetch our data in Axios, right? Because we'll be performing a GET request to this link right here, where we'll substitute your key with our actual API key in our .env file. Okay. So how do we do that? I'm going to say use effect, set up my callback function, and then set up an empty dependency array so that it only runs once. And then I'm going to create a function inside here that fetches our data. So I'm going to call this function fetch books. Very simple. And this is going to be an asynchronous function, right? So this asynchronous function, I like asynchronous functions because their syntax is so much easier for me to remember. Though the downside of this is that as asynchronous function are something that is fairly new to most browsers. So browsers like Internet Explorer don't really understand this, but then they understand the what's it called? The promises, the fetch, catch, then syntax. Okay, and what I'm talking about, just to show you what I'm talking about, is something like this, where we would say fetch, and we are fetching our URL. So fetch the URL, and then once we fetch the URL, then we say then, and then inside here, then we say then, which I don't really like because it's such a long syntax, and but it's basically all preference. This is not me hitting on the other syntax. It's just basically all preference. So inside here, I'm going to say these are the synchronous functions. So I'm going to set up my response, and I'm just going to say const res equals to await, because it's an asynchronous function. We need to use the await keyword. So we are awaiting Axios dot get, and then we are getting this URL. So I'm going to grab this from here, so cut it out and then paste it inside here and remove this. Now, the reason why I'm pasting it inside here is because I want to substitute this with our API key, which we have in our .env file. So I want this to be substituted into here. And because we're using template literals, notice that these are backticks and they're not single quotes or double quotes. Then it means we can set up variables directly inside a string using the $sign and the curly brackets. And once I do that, I can call on process.env and then dot, and then I need to give the same name that I gave to my API key. So I'm going to grab this, copy this, and then I'm going to paste it inside here, and like that. So once we do this, once we run this, then Node.js is going to access our API key because we have called on process.env. And once we do this, I have just remembered that I don't want to commit this file to GitHub. So I'm going to go into my git ignore and write where. Let me just go below this, and I'm going to say, in miscellaneous. Okay, I'm going to say ignore the .env file, and you should notice that it should be grayed out. So it's grayed out, so which means it's now being ignored. And if we commit it to GitHub, then our API keys will be safe, they won't be visible. Okay, once we fetch our data, then I need to call this function so that it actually runs. So right outside this, I'm going to say fetch books. And then just to confirm that we're actually getting our data, I'm going to console log what we get back, and I'm going to console log res.data. And that should be enough, really, but let me turn on h1 that says books. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go into my app.js and import this component. And right at the top, I'm going to say, right at the top, I'm going to say import books from books. From books. From ./books. There you go. And then I'm going to render it inside here and just say books like that. So let me save that and let me go into our application. There's no such file. Let me go into my index.js and remove this. I forgot to remove this and this. And let's save that. And it should run now. Let's see. And we have books, which is basically what we're getting from this h1 right here. And let's check our console to see if anything is being logged. So I'm going to go into my console right there, and failed to server responded with the status of unauthorized. I think the reason for that is because it doesn't currently understand where this variable is coming from. So I need to stop my server and then restart it, really, npm start. And then once this restarts, then it should be able to access this, our .env file. So let me close this. Let me close that, and then we can wait for this to start. Okay. And then once it starts, we should be able to see some data in our console. So let me check that. And in our console, then we get an object right there. So notice that we get an object because technically this is an object. Okay, this isn't really a good example. So let me substitute my API key. Let me grab this and then substitute it in my address bar right there, where we should now be able to fetch some data. So notice that this is an object. It's a JSON object, right? And the data that we are really interested in is the books data, which is an array, which is everything inside here all the way down to the end, all the way down to here, because this is the closing array. Now, in order to access this array, then we need to go into, because we have res.data, which is basically this that we're fetching. So we need to go into res.data, and then we go into the results objects, because the books array is inside the results object. So I'm going to go back into my application, and I'm going to say res.data.results.books. And then let's console log that. So once I save this and it reloads, then I should be able to see an array in my console instead of an object. So let me save that and reload this. Okay, there you go. So we have an array of 15 items. So this is basically all that we need, because as you can see, this is we have the rank last week, and this isn't really showing everything. We have the links to where you can buy the book. We have the contributor, we have the author, we have the book image, and we have the description. And where's the title? The title is right here. Okay, so it's looking nice, and we can now work with this data. So what I'm going to do is just squeeze this up a bit, and then I'm going to close this sidebar, and then I'm going to open my VS Code just a bit. Oops. Well, you know what, let me push this right there. Yep, so that I can destructure my data while just looking at this instead of keeping on to switching screens. Okay, so one thing that we need to do is that, because this is only a console log and we don't really have access to this data in our state values, so what I need to do is grab this function and set this function into this, so that it can populate the use state, which will then populate our state value right there. So I'm going to say set books into res.data.results.books. And I know you might be wondering, where is this data coming from? Because we're using Axios, then we get access to a data object, which then is actually the, how do I say, which is basically the JSON object that we get back. Yeah, that's the word, the JSON object that we get back. So once I do this, then let's see. Okay, so this is populating my state value, which means I can now come inside here. Let me just leave out this h1, and then let me remove this, the div, and return a fragment instead. And below the h1, I'm going to return a section. And inside this section now, because this is now technically an array that we have populated with this data, then I can map over this books data, the books array. So I'm going to say books.map, and then for every book, right, I'm going to destructure a few things, and this will be all be coming from book, right? So I'm going to destructure what? I'm going to destructure the age group. Let me start with age group, and then I'm going to destructure the author, right? And then we need the book underscore image, and then we need the the by links. Now notice that by links is also an array, so we will need to do something more in order to access this. But for now, we can just have this, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. Oops. Once you have by links, then we need the description. So description, and then we need the price, and then we need the primary ISBN. So primary underscore ISBN 10, okay? And then we need the publisher, and then the rank, and I think rank will be our key. So once we get the rank, we need our title, right? And that's basically all the data that we need. So I'm going to set up my return once more, and I'm going to return an article this time with a key of rank. And if rank isn't unique to all of them, then we are going to have to look for another key, which most likely is going to be the ISBN, because the ISBN, I think, should be unique for every key, right? So how do we structure our data? First of all, I want the image of the book, right? And then the title, and then the description, and then basically all of the information. So that's easy enough. So I'm going to return a div, and inside this div, I'm going to return an image, and the source for this will be book underscore image. And in case the image fails to load, then I just want to return the title of the book. So I'm going to return the title right there. And then once I return this, then I want to return another div, and this other div is going to have an h3 that says the title of the book, and then below this I'm going to have a paragraph that says description, like that. So let me save this just to show you what we get back, and we should get back something like this. So we have James Patterson, we have the title right there, and we have the book. Oh, and I've just realized, because I want to use TailwindCSS, I will need to grab TailwindCSS, because it's so much easier to style it with TailwindCSS. So once we have this, then I'm going to say I can now push this to the side even more, right? Oops. So once I get all of this, then what do I need to do? I want the author to appear below the paragraph, right? And then let me just have a small tag, not really a small tag, but another paragraph here, a paragraph that says the author, and then I'm going to have another UL outside of the div. I'm going to have a UL with the list items, how many are remaining, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By links is an array, so I want to deal with this separately. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to return 4 list items like that. And the first one is going to be, let me place this full screen, because switching back and forth is kind of getting annoying. Place this to the side, and I'm going to say like that. So the first thing that I want to get is the age group, age underscore group, right? And then I want to get the price. No, that's not how I want to structure it. Let me get the primary ISBN 10, right? And then let me get the publisher. Let me move the publisher up top, the age group below this. Okay. What do I want to do? What it is I want to do? Let me turn a list item here and just say the price. And then because this is an array, I want to deal with it differently. I'm going to say return a UL here, and then inside this UL I'm going to place some curly brackets so I can perform some array methods. So I'm going to say by underscore links dot map, and then I'm going to say dot that for every link I want to grab some few things. So I'm going to destruct it because it's easier. This is coming from link, and I want the structure. What do I want to be structure? Let me see. In by links we have name and URL. Okay, name and URL. So I want to destructure the name and URL. I'm going to say name and URL like that. And once we destructure that, then I want to return a div, right? Really, I want to return a div with the key. This should have return. Okay, so we are returning a div right there, and this div will have the key of name, and then inside this div I'm going to return a list item that says the name of the what's it called, the company where we're going to buy the book, and then another list item that says the URL to the link. Oops, not a list item here, but an href. This should be an href because it's a URL. So href is going to be equal to the URL, and then right here I'm going to say by now. Let me just say that by now, or rather than by now, let me return structuring this is actually quite hard because I'm doing it all in my head. Div with the key. Let me save this. Let's see what we get back. So we have this is the link to buy it. So what I'm going to do is go back into here and remove this. Remove the first one so that we no longer have the list items, except that we have only the links to the buy. And let me just place a flag here and say buy now. Oops, that's not what I want. I want this paragraph to be above here, so that it's at the top only at the top. So buy now, and this is, I think this is the price, right? The price 00. Is it 00 for everyone? If it's 00 for everyone, then I don't want to return it. Let me just close this and then let me move this. Okay, so let me just add some flags so that we actually know what kind of data this is. So where is it? This is going to be the title, this is the description, the author. So right here I'm going to say publisher. Oops, I don't know how to spell. Excuse me. This is publisher, this is ISBN, and then this is age group, like that. And once again, if the audio isn't clear enough, please you can just ask me and I'll try to tinker with it so that it becomes a bit clearer. So let me save that and let's see if it reflects. And we have publisher, ISBN, and age group, and this age group is empty, so it should just return empty. Really, is it empty for all of them? If it's empty for all of them, then I don't really need this because it's basically like irrelevant information. So remove this. Okay, now that we have all of this, then we don't need the console anymore. but I need cdnjs.com so that I can grab my Tailwind CDN, Tailwind CSS, copy the link tag, go into my public folder, close this down, and in index.html, just paste it inside here, and it should automatically reset a few things, as you can see. So it's quite a breeze to work with it. So let me place this back to the side, and we can begin styling out our application. So how do we do that? Let me go into this h1, give this a class name. Give this a class name of font bold and text center and text 4XL and padding on the Y, so on the top and bottom of, let's say, 10. This happens. Okay, let me reduce this to 5. And then inside this section, give this a class name of grid, and the grid columns to be 1. And then once we have grid columns 1, let me add a grid gap of 10, and let me add a padding on the X of 5 so that this push inwards. So this push inwards like that. Okay, looking nice, almost manageable. And then now let's go into our image. Let me give this image a class name of because I don't want it to appear on the side, instead I want it to appear on the center of everything. So I'm going to say block so that it becomes a block element, and I'm going to say margin on the X of auto so that it centers like that. Let me reduce the width to about 75%, so width 9/12. No, not good. Let's say 2/3, 66%. Is that really okay? Let's say a half. I'm not sure I like that, but it's on a smaller screen, so this should be fine. Okay, so let me go into my h3 right there, and I'm going to say that for this h3 I want to give this a class name of font bold, right? And I'm going to say I want to say margin on the top of 2 and margin on the bottom of 4, so that it pushes down just a bit. Let me say 2, or let me just say margin on the Y of 2. Okay, let me increase the text font to 2XL, text size, sorry, not text font. Okay, so that we have this, and then let me go inside this paragraph, and let me give this paragraph a class name of margin bottom of 2 or of 4, so that it pushes away from the author right there. And then let me give this a flag of author as well, so that we have that. And I think I'm going to place this inside a span, or yeah, let me just place it inside a span so that I can target this span and give this a class name of font bold. So we have font bold so that it's bolder, it's more prominent, so that we actually know what we're looking at. And what I'm going to do is just copy this down, copy it here, change this to publisher, and then copy it here, change this to ISBN, and then copy it where, okay, that's it, so that we have it's a bit more prominent in terms of like user experience or something. Okay, so once we get the ISBN, I want this to push away from this by, so I'm going to go into this UL, and I'm going to give this a class name of margin bottom of 4, pushes it down just a bit, just enough. And instead of a paragraph here, let me turn h4 or an h3, and nothing really changes because we're using Tailwind. So give this a class name of font bold, right? Let me give it text of XL, make it just a bit bigger. Okay. Okay, and I've just realized that if we have a buy now from each of these companies, then we might need to place the price somewhere. So let me see if I can do that, because we're returning the name right here. Let me see if I can access the price from here. Let me see if I can access price from here. I'm not sure if I can do that. Price. Let's see that. Okay, so we get the price right there because we already destructed at the top right there. But then this looks kind of messed up a bit. Okay, you know what? Instead of returning price here, I'm going to return an icon instead. So that it shows that you can click it to go to an external link. So this icon is going to be called, what's it called? I've forgotten the names. React icons. Let's go to React icons, search for external, and this is the link that I want. So I'm just going to render this as a component, and I need to import it from React icons. So I'm going to say import this from React icons / bootstrap icons, and that should work. What's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. Okay, so let's save that. Let's go back to our application, and we should be able to see that icon somewhere here. And there you go. So we have our icon. So let me give this a few more styling. So where I'm going to give this a class name of flex, so that this icon comes right there like that, and then item center, so that it pushes just a bit down like that. And then I'm going to go inside the icon and give this a class name of margin on the left, right? Margin on the left of 1, so that it pushes away from the text just a bit. And then we actually need this to go to an external link. So the href here in the anchor tag, sorry, I'm going to add an attribute here called target, and I'm going to set target to underscore blank. So underscore blank, which means it will open on a new page. And then I'm also going to add another attribute called rel, and I'm going to set this to no opener, and no referrer, like that. So that now if I were to click this, it should take me to an external, to the external link. And this should take me to Apple Books. This should take me to Barnes and Noble, and so on and so forth. Okay. So that will be basically it for this, the mobile version. But just to make it a bit more interesting, let me add a bit of a background color so that we have some contrast right there. And I'm going to go inside my article here, and I'm going to give this a class name of bg gray-100, like that, looking nice. And let me add some padding so that this push inwards, and I'm going to say padding on the y of 5 and padding on the x of 10. So it pushes inwards like that, and this pushes away from the bottom margin. And let me give this a class of rounded dash large, so that we have rounded borders right there. It's not very visible, but it adds to the user experience. Okay, that will be it for this mobile version. So we need to just scale it up, and scaling it up should be easy. So I'm just going to go inside this section, and I'm going to target 640 pixel screen. So I'm going to say for small screens, I want the grid columns to be 2. So let's see that. Let's see right there where we have what's it called, 2 columns right there. And once we have 2 columns on 640 pixel screens, I just want to reduce this a bit, this padding that I have on the left and right. So where was it? It was right here, and I'm just going to target it once again, and I'm going to say for 640 pixel screens, I want the padding on the X to change to 5, to reduce, sorry, to 5, so that it reduces and it has some, a bit more space, and it looks nice, looks nice. Okay. And then we just need to change the grid columns once again for large screens. I'm going to say for large screens, large, I'm going to say change the grid columns to 3. Let's see that right about there. And we have 3 columns. And of course, finally, for 2 extra large screens, or let me say for XL screens, the grid columns should be 4, where we will now have this looking amazing. Okay, one thing I've just realized is that I need this to also become bigger text on bigger screens so that it's not the same size as the title of the books. So I'm going to go inside my H1 right here, and I'm going to say that for large screens, change the text to 8XL. Let's see how this looks. Too big. Let's say 6XL. So we have books right there. Or you know what? Instead of books, let me say bestseller. Bestsellers, like that. And it's more descriptive. It's more descriptive. So that's basically it. We are returning. Let me add some padding on the bottom here so that this we can have a bit more leeway in terms of scrolling. So I'm going to go inside my section, and I'm going to go where right here. I'm going to say padding on the bottom of 20, which should give me a bit more space right there. Okay, so that I have some more room to in terms of scrolling. Okay. Looking very nice, very nice. I think that will basically be it for this stream and this video as well. But I want to show you one thing that I really like about the New York Times API. So I'm going to go back into my account right here, and I'm going to go into my apps. And then if you need to access any other API, all you need to do is go into your application and just look for the API that you want. For example, if you wanted the article search API, then all I have to do is come and enable it right here and then save it. And then once I save that, then I should be able to access the articles API. So if I go into article search API, and then I should just run this, should be it. Go to this and then substitute this for my API key. Then, oops, that didn't go as planned. Did I do it correctly? Did I do it correctly? I have the New York Times API. Okay. Or should I have, no, cancel. Should I have, what's it called? I thought that would work for some reason, but it doesn't. Okay, anyway, it's not really that big of a deal, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And then, yeah, that's basically it. So if you were to commit this to GitHub, what you'll notice is that the .env file wouldn't be committed, and your API keys would be safe, just like the node modules aren't committed. Okay, so before I sign out, I just want to say that you can follow me on Twitch, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube. All the links are available in the description. And Twitch doesn't have a description, but it has an about section, so all the links are available in the about section. So make sure you leave a like and subscribe as well on YouTube, and you can follow me on the channel before you leave, and I will see you in the next video and in the next stream. So thank you guys so much for watching.